So good morning. We'll start here in a second. We'll give a couple seconds here for people to join the webinar. I can see they're starting to come on in, so I'll go ahead and start. So thank you for joining us today. Today's actually a really good presentation on basically just an introduction to government contracting. A lot of people want to get into government contracting, they don't know where to start. So great way to start is by reaching out to us here, Monterey Bay Apex Accelerator. But then this presentation will help walk you through a lot of the things that you kind of need to know and some of the steps that you should go through in pursuing government contracts. So first, a little bit about us. We were formerly called Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, commonly referred to as PTACs. We're now Apex Accelerators. We're administered locally by the Monterey County Business Council. Apex Accelerators are funded through the Department of Defense, and they've been around since 1985. There's actually 96 Apex Accelerators across the United States, as well in U.S. territories such as Guam and Puerto Rico. And the mission of all Apex Accelerators is just to promote the economic growth and employment opportunities in the local markets that they serve. And they do that by facilitating your access to the government marketplace. And again, although we're federally funded, access to the government marketplace, whether it's state or local as well, with the idea being maybe you start at the local level and grow by going to the state and eventually to the federal government. But it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes the first entry into the government marketplace might be with a federal agency. There are actually 7 Apex Accelerators in the state of California. We're this teal area in the middle of the state. So we're Central Coast, Central Valley. If you're in the webinar and you're from one of the other counties outside of that teal area, you can reach out to them or reach out to us. We'll refer you to our friends at the various other Apex Accelerators in the state. So a little bit about all the services that Apex Accelerators provide. Basically confidential services to you. First and foremost, it's one-on-one counseling, working with you, learning about your business, what you've done in the past, what you're doing now, and then goals for government contracting and developing a plan to help you succeed. We do that through pre-award assistance, help you teach you how to find opportunities that are out there, help you review the contracting opportunity notices. They go by different names. We'll be kind of talking about that in the future. Capability statements is something too that we help you work on because it's a really important tool in promoting your company in the government marketplace. Post-award assistance. Conflicts may arise, or we talk to you about how to avoid any kind of conflicts should you get a contract. Talk to you a little bit about what debriefs are. Debriefs basically is once a contract has been awarded, it's an opportunity for you to talk to the contracting officers and ask them, why didn't I get the contract, or what I did get the contract, but what I could have done better. And then maybe you didn't get a contract and you felt that you feel like you want to protest the contract. We'll talk to you about that and tell you really whether it's worth all the time and effort in the award. Outreach events, we're out and about in the Valley, attending outreach events, talking to people about who we are, what we do, etc. Much like I'm doing now. And typically at an outreach event, we're also doing some trainings like we're doing here in this webinar. And then bid matching. Bid matching is a service that we provide to you that we use. A third-party vendor has developed a system that we work with you, set up a profile for your company, upload it into their system. Their system then will go out and search literally thousands of websites where government entities have posted contracting opportunities, and then any matches between what they posted and the profile that we've helped you create will then just be emailed directly, saving you all the time and effort of going to these websites separately, just looking to see if there's might be something you may be interested in. So it's a great tool. Certification programs, we help you navigate those. There's a lot of them out there. So we kind of talk to you a little bit about whether they make sense for your business or not, the qualifications that are required, and the supporting documents that typically are requested in the process. So great thing for us is that there's no fees or commitments where your tax dollars at work. So utilize our services, because again, it just only thing it costs you is your time, and we're here to help you grow. Along with that, I'd like to introduce to you Sharon Mikesell with Cal Coastal SBDC, who is a great strategic partner of ours that does similar but different work than we do. Take it away, Sharon.
Great, thanks, Victor. That's okay. Oh, there we go. As Victor mentioned, I am Sharon Mikesell. I'm the program manager at the Cal Coastal Small Business Development Center, and you may also know us as Cal Coastal SBDC. There's about 1,000 SBDC locations around the country. We are part of the Central California Network, and we specifically provide small businesses in Monterey and San Benito counties with one-on-one, no-fee business advising, training, and access to comprehensive resources and information to help businesses start, grow, and succeed. We provide financial education, business plan guidance, marketing tips that can help businesses get started with government contracts of all sizes. And we find that a lot of our clients get started in government contracting as subcontractors or with contracts with cities, counties, and special districts. And like Victor just said, our services are similar but different. We complement Apex Accelerator's services. So we recommend signing up for both services from both of our organizations, especially since there's no cost to you. And why is there no cost to you? Well, we have the support of our partners that include the U.S. Small Business Administration, the California Office of the Small Business Advocate, local partners, including the Workforce Development Board of Monterey County, the Monterey County Business Council, the City of Salinas, and of course, our host and small business lender, Cal Coastal Rural Development Corporation. If you're not our client already and you're in Monterey and San Benito counties, please visit our website at calcoastalsbdc.com and click that little green Get Started button. And of course, you can always follow us on social media no matter what. And thanks for joining us. And I'm going to throw it back over to Victor to start today's presentation.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. Yes, SBDCs are a great asset to small businesses. So take advantage of that. They got a lot of great consultants that help provide services to you. So here's our agenda today. I'm going to talk just real briefly about just the common process in selling to the government, go over some procurement terms that you may or may not know, talk about set-aside programs, and then we're going to jump into selling to the federal government, state, talk about subcontracting, a little bit about conducting market intelligence, and then promotion. So let's just kind of jump into it here. So common process. So basically the selling to the government is that you want to start the process by doing the market research. Basically, you want to find out, does the government buy the product or service that you sell? If they do, you want to know, which government does it, which government agency buys what it is you sell. One of the things that we tell people too is you need to understand in a supply chain that it could be that you would never ever sell your product directly to the government or your service directly. You're going to sell to another company who in turn has that contract with the government, which is absolutely fine. And that's why later on in the presentation, I'm going to talk about subcontracting. So that's one of the things that we'll coach you on, is that you've done your market research. You find out that government doesn't really buy what you sell, but the product or service you sell is actually used by the government. Product or service codes. So these codes, this NICS NAICS code is the most common one used by the federal government, but then other governments such as local governments or the state, the NIGP code is used by a lot of local cities or counties. And then the state of California uses this United Nations SPSC codes. So just be kind of aware of those. And one of the things you want to do is, this next bullet point talks about registration. When you're registering in these systems, you'll be required to, enter the codes that match your business. So you'll have to then understand and which codes they use, and then identify which codes in the various systems then that you need to upload into the registration system. So again, that's part of the process. You need it. Then once you've got those codes, you go in and register with your system, putting your name, address, phone number, the codes, etc. And then you basically, once you've done that, you're then start the really process of going to websites and looking for the request for quotes, that's RFQ, or the request for proposals, to see what's out there. And then once you decide, yes, I'm going to respond to an RFQ and RFP, you're going to prepare your offer. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you're then, whether you win a contract or not, you want to ask for a debrief from the contracting officer to find out if you were awarded the contract, how could I have done a better job? Or if you didn't, you want to find out, was your price too high? Was it your lack of experience, specific experience, those types of things? And they'll tell you. So that's basically the common process that you're going to go through. And a lot of this presentation is about the federal government, but this process pretty much is the same at any government level. If you're going to sell to the county, you want to see does the county buy the product or service you sell. When you're registering for them, again, they're probably going to have some coding system that you're going to have to assign to the product or services you sell. You need to register in their website, etc. So this is the common process you go through. So let me talk a little bit about procurement terms. When you're looking at opportunities, and basically like a full and open competition means that any company of any size can submit an offer to the government on the opportunity. So, it could be a billion-dollar company or a company that's basically just starting out can submit an offer on an opportunity. That's full and open competition. A request for proposal is when you're submitting an offer, but in that offer, basically you're proposing sort of a solution of how you're going to solve whatever problem the government might have. And in a request for proposal, it's how you're going to do something is more important than the price. They have a price in mind, but they want to understand really what is your strategy going to be for managing the project that they have you submitting on. Request for quote is different in the sense that, again, price is really what they're looking for. So they want you to quote them a price. So that's the main difference for that. This next one is RFI, is request for information. In the federal marketplace, you also see a term called a sources sought notice, but it's where the government is looking to basically get information from you. Typically, the information they want to know is, do you have interest in this opportunity that we're describing in this notice? Tell us whether you're a woman-owned, minority, veteran, or any of these other kind of socioeconomic classes. Per that, this last procurement term, set-asides. A set-aside is when the government basically looks at an opportunity. Maybe they've done their due diligence in the request for information or the sources sought process, and they see that they have enough responses where they say, let's set aside this contract for only women-owned businesses, meaning only women-owned businesses can submit an offer on this specific opportunity. And I'm going to go into and describe what the various set-asides are. The most common set-aside in the federal marketplace that you'll see is small business. So set-asides are also kind of considered this term here, socioeconomic programs. So let me kind of jump into them a little bit. So with the federal's set-aside programs, small business is the most common set-aside that you'll see when you're looking at opportunities. And when you look at opportunities on what's called SAM.gov, where they're posted, it'll tell you set aside, and it'll tell you whether it's small business, full and open competition, or one of these other categories. 8A is a small disadvantaged business that typically it's a woman or minority owned company. And that's a set aside program that the government has. They have a set aside program for women owned business, HUBZone businesses, veteran owned business, and then service disabled veteran owned businesses. Just to kind of give you an idea here too, is that, the federal government, in order to operate, spends over $500 billion annually. In fiscal year 2022, they spent $158.7 billion, or 23.2% of their spend with small businesses. So again, it's small businesses within these various categories. The annual goal that the government has set for themselves is a 23% goal to selling directly to small businesses. So you can see in 2022 that they slightly over that goal. So that's good that they're trending in that direction. Now, when the government issues a larger contract, then there's a stipulation within that contract that 29% of that contract then needs to be contracted out to small businesses. So per that, you'll see that this is the breakdown that they use. So 7% of it just needs to go to a small business, 5% 8A, 5% woman-owned, 3% service-disabled veterans, and then 3% the HUBZone businesses. And I'm going to talk about that in a second, the importance about subcontracting as well. So when selling to the federal government, first thing you want to do is you need to go and set up an account in this login.gov. Login.gov is a portal that the government has created in order to help eliminate cybercrime. So it's a two-factor authentication system, but it's used to access a lot of these federal procurement systems that exist. So you set up an account, login.gov, then it allows you to then go into sam.gov and register your business in that system so you can sell directly to the federal government. In that process is the NAICS code. You need to have your NAICS code identified, because that's going to be asked in the registration process in sam.gov. And there's the website, census.gov, where you can actually go and look up your NAICS code. If you want to, you can contact us after a conversation with us. We can kind of help you maybe better define which NAICS code applies to you. One thing too is that when you are registering in sam.gov, you're not limited to one code. So you could actually list like 10 different codes that you do all those, or that the coding systems aren't perfect. So you could have two different contracting officers. One will assign a NAICS code to an opportunity, and a different contracting officer can look at that same opportunity and give it a different NAICS code. So it's okay to have several there. What the system will ask you though is which one is your primary NAICS code. And then product or service code, that's not a required field the way a NAICS code is. But especially if you're selling products, I would say, or certain kinds of services to include those as well. Because sometimes it helps better for you to either the government to find you or you to find opportunities using a product or service code versus the NAICS code. And then lastly, determine whether, you qualify for some of these socioeconomic groups that are established in the SBA.gov. So look at that. So that way, the system will ask, are you a woman-owned business? Are you a veteran, et cetera? And you want to click on that. One thing to note, though, is that if you see that an opportunity is set aside for one of these socioeconomic groups, say you're a woman-owned business, and you see there's an opportunity set aside for a woman-owned business, you can only submit an offer, or your offer will only be reviewed if you're certified as a woman-owned business. So even though you are 100% a woman-owned business, if you're not certified, then your proposal or your offer won't even be reviewed because you're not certified. So keep that in mind when you see set-asides. So again, these are the set-asides that are administered by the SBA. 8A, woman-owned small business, economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business, HUBZone, veteran-owned, serves disabled veteran. So again, the important thing here is that if you are a member of one of these socioeconomic groups, get certified, because otherwise the set-asides that you see that apply to your business, your offer won't even be reviewed if you're not certified. Now let me go to California. So in California, their set-asides are different. Back in the late 90s, California's voters voted to remove affirmative action programs from state government. So no longer can the state of California set aside opportunities for, say, minority-owned companies or woman-owned companies. But currently, these are the set-asides that they have: a micro business, small business, and then disabled veteran business enterprise. The small business size standard is different for the state of California than it is for the federal government. So that's, I don't want to get too much in the weeds with that, but it's about half of what the federal government considers as a small business. But these are the set-asides that by statute that the state of California can put on contracts. So with the state of California, if you want to sell to them, this is where it all happens on this website, Cal eProcure. And up you can see the URL, the website address up top to help you out. But the first thing you want to do is in the upper left-hand corner there where it says sell to the state, you want to register with the state. And when you're going in that registration process is where they will ask you what is your UNSPSC code. So again, you want to maybe go and do that homework first so you have it ready to go when you're doing that. The other thing that they'll ask you when you're registering in this system is for keywords in addition to those codes that identify the type of work that you do. Talking to the Cal eProcure folks is that the way their system is set up, it works better to notify you of opportunities through the keywords than through those codes. So keep that in mind. Once you register, and again, anybody who wants to sell to the state, even a $1 billion a year company, has to be registered in this system. But once you register and you put in UNSPSC codes, keywords, the system will automatically email you opportunities that match that profile that you set up in the registration process. And one thing about it too is that you can always, once you register, you can always go back and make changes to it. Maybe you're getting the wrong kind of opportunities, or you're getting too many because of the keywords. So you can always go back and change that. Likewise with the federal government, you set up a registration in sam.gov, you can always go back and edit it. Now, I mentioned earlier those three set-asides, micro, small business, and disabled veteran business enterprise. So once you register with the system, then you want to go over to this box in the upper right-hand corner where it says get certified, and then go through that process to get certified. Typically what they're looking for is tax returns to verify the size of the business. But some other documentation. I can tell you too that the disabled veteran business enterprise process, again, is different than the process with the federal government. The other thing that's really important to note too is that if you are certified by the SBA to sell to the government as a service disabled veteran-owned small business, the state of California won't accept that for their disabled veteran business enterprise set-asides. You need to have their certification as well. So, you want to have one for the federal government and you want to have one for the state, because each one won't accept the other certification. And then here's these other boxes here that you see on this. There's a couple different ways you can get to it, but here you can click up here where you're searching for bid opportunities, or down here you can find opportunities or see what agencies bought stuff in the past, etc. And then in this bottom right hand corner, the state has posted a lot of videos where they've done some trainings and things like that. Also in here, there is a link where you can download what's called a small business advocate for the contact information for individuals for every agency that the state has, so that you can contact them to say, hey, I'm interested in selling to your agency. Who should I be talking to? Who can I send my capability statement to, etc. So take advantage of that. So I mentioned, the three set-asides that the state has, but this DVBE registration, it's done through CalVet. And of course, the goal of awarding 3%, their goal is to award 3% of all state contracts to certified DVBEs. One thing too, it's important to note that if you're certified as a small business with the state or micro business, you're given a 5% preference, meaning that if you're certified as a small business with the state and you're competing against a large business, if your price is if you come in second to that large business as far as the offers that have come into the state, and your price is within 5% of that large business's price, that contract is going to go to you. If you're small and you're a veteran, you get the 5% plus this another 2%, so you get a 7% preference over other companies. So keep that in mind. And then this is just, you go to that link that you just saw there, and this starts this process of being certified by either as a small business or a disabled veteran business certification. But again, as a minimum, probably for most everybody on this call, on this webinar, get certified as a small business. And again, depending on your revenues, the state will automatically give you a micro business certification versus a small business. And the other thing is important to note that if you qualify for both disabled veteran business enterprise and small business, is that you want to get both. You can't just say get the DVBE certification and then you would automatically get the small business. There's a separate process for each one. So you want to make sure that if you qualify for both, do both. Now this slide, talk a little bit about preferences, and you heard me talk a little bit about with the state and the preferences they give if you're a small business that's registered with them or a DVBE. Now, because of the anti-affirmative action laws that were passed back in the 90s, what you see is a lot of local governments have their own preference programs. Again, they can't set aside a contract for a minority business enterprise or a woman business enterprise, but they can give a preference. So, and they vary. So they're not all universal, that they all have the same preferences, but you want to inquire with, say, your target customer, whether it's the county or the city or the town, about any kind of preferences they may have. You say, do you have any kind of preference programs? And ask them, you know, do you have a local preference? Same thing, if you're live in a city and they have a local preference and you're competing with somebody from another city, they're going to give you that 5% preference, because again, they want to help the local economy. Again, some of the local governments will have a preference for minority business enterprise, women, and we're starting to see that even some communities are including LGBTQ preferences as well in their contract opportunities. So make sure you inquire about that. So I want to talk about this certification, which can be somewhat confusing. You just heard me mention that if you're dealing with the state or local government, they can't set aside contracts for minority or women. Now, through this DBE certification, which stands for Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, as you can see, it's a certification that's done through Caltrans or this California Unified Certification Program. And what it is it's a US DOT, it's a federal program. So because it's federal, then the California law of saying we can't set aside contracts for women and minorities applies because it's federal. Typically, the way it works is that the government, most of the time it's Caltrans, but it could be like if the city of Fresno or if BART has received funding directly through US DOT, then what they'll do is they'll put DBE goals on projects. Most cases, what it is they'll require whoever is the prime contractor to meet the DBE goals that they've assigned to a specific project. It's primarily going to be work that's done on highways, roads, railways, airports. So most of it is what I call horizontal construction, which is railroads, roads, highways. But there's, when you think of airports and remodels in airports, that's considered vertical construction. But each project is different. So what the entities do is they look at the work, they kind of look in the database and see who's out there, and then they'll assign a goal to it that they'll basically hold the prime contractor accountable to. So one project might have a goal of 12%, another project might have 8%, another project might have 18%. So it's going to vary. One thing that's really important is that the DBE firm needs to perform what's called a commercially useful function. So that's kind of like a legal term that's used. So meaning that if I'm the DBE firm, I actually need to be out on the job site doing the work. I can't, as an example, being the DBE, go out and hire another company that goes out and actually does the work. And then basically I then bill the prime contractor. That's considered a pass through. And I'm not basically conducting a commercially useful function on the job. So keep that in mind. This next bullet point, I talked a little bit about, but not all projects will have a goal or condition of award on it. So again, they'll do their market research. It might just be because of the location of the project that they know that there's just not a lot of DBE firms there. And for them to, say, travel a long distance to a remote part of the state, it would cost the government much more to basically build that project. So basically the way it works is that USDOT has a goal for the state, and then the state needs to meet that goal, and they can meet it any way they want to on all the projects that they do. So the goals are going to vary. And again, it's more advantageous for subcontractors. The way this program that's been around since the 80s was established is that a prime contractor then is going to use women or minority contractors as subcontractors to build a project for their Department of Transportation. It's important that when you're going through the certification process for this DBE certification is that you include all pertinent NAICS codes. So again, it could be that the kind of work that you do a lot of different things. When you look into codes, you can see that, there might be 10 different codes that you can do. So do that. Make sure you include all the ones that apply to you. And again, more than anything too, remember that this DBE certification is for construction work. I've seen people go out and get DBE certification, and really the kind of product or service they sell has nothing to do with construction. They'll still certify you, but you'll go through this whole process of doing it, and you'll never ever have a contracting opportunity. The other thing to know too is that if you do sell a product that is used in construction, say you sell gravel, the prime can only count 50% of the dollar value of an invoice, whereas if they're using a subcontractor to actually do some type of work, then they can count the entire 100% value of that contract. So the primes typically prefer to use subcontractors versus suppliers because it's easier for them to hit the goals that has been assigned to that specific project. And to give you an idea, like and again, this is just an example of in construction, but like all these big companies that you see here, these are big players. They're always looking for quality subcontractors to work with on projects. In fact, I just got an email today that there's a company that again is like a global construction company called Fluor that they're doing outreach. So one of the things you want to do if you're in construction is reach out to these companies. They all have their own databases that they like you to sign up in. So it makes it easier for them to notify you when they have projects coming up where they need to meet DBE goals. The other thing I'll tell you about subcontracting too is that, and right now I'm talking a lot about construction, is that in the federal government marketplace is that large contracts, like just think of contracts that are over $1 million. If it's a large company that gets that contract, then they automatically have to meet those subcontracting goals that I mentioned earlier. So even if you're doing things like if you're in IT or maybe it's a large janitorial contract or something like that, they have to use subcontractors. So keep that in mind that that may be the best way for you to get started in government contracting is being a subcontractor to somebody first. It helps you to oftentimes learn some of the processes, how to invoice properly, some of the other documentation requirements that you might have, those types of things, so that eventually the goal being you being a prime instead of a subcontractor. A little bit more about this though. I just wanted to show you this because this is Caltrans website. It might be kind of hard for you to see, but oh, now that I'm looking at the slide, prior to that getting to where I'm at here, there was a opportunity that Caltrans had that basically there you could click on it and you could see that there is an opportunity for companies such as this one, this American Civil Constructors West Coast, for them to basically add their name to the list saying, we're looking for subcontractors. So you can see that there's companies looking at that. Prior to this, you would have seen that the project has a certain DBE goal on it. And this allows this company maybe to make it easier for you to contact them because they're actively looking for DBE subcontractors. So let me just kind of go through a couple of things here as far as what does it take for success? So really, you know, again, we talked about it. You want to register in government agency databases. And in addition to that, like you talked about subcontracting, get registered in some of those large primes databases as well. But, you know, you need to do that first. Then have effective and professional marketing materials. So business cards, email, website, print. You want to have what's called a capability statement, especially in the state and in the federal marketplace. Oftentimes when you're responding to an RFI or sources sought for a federal opportunity, they'll ask you to send them a capability statement along with that. But it's a nice piece for you to project a professional image. But again, take the time and some resources to have business cards, an email that's, you know, not a @Gmail or @Yahoo account. It's, you know, tied to a website that you have. Value proposition. Make sure that that is what you're selling is your value proposition. What is it that you're can do for a customer that's going to save them time, money, resources, etc. So sit down, think about that. We can sit down with you and help you kind of help you to define that. But that's really important, is that you're selling your value proposition. One of the mistakes that we see people make is they do go out and get certifications, such as a woman-owned or veteran-owned, and they're not pushing that when they should be pushing their value proposition of how they can save somebody money. The fact that they're certified is just kind of the icing on the cake. This next one's really important. Make sure you have adequate resources. And when I say adequate resources is, you know, have the right people. And oftentimes with government contracting is, you know, it takes time for you to kind of learn how it works. Somebody taking the time to do the market research of who buys, what it is that you sell, those types of things. So make sure that you have the right person doing that, and then make sure that you're willing to pay someone to do this kind of stuff, because it may take them 6 months, 8 months, a year of hard work before you actually will get your first winning contract. So understand that. Make sure you have the right, equipment, et cetera, that you need. Again, with equipment, it could be that you understand what it is that you have. You look at an opportunity and understand that, well, I don't need to necessarily go out and buy new equipment, but I know I'm going to need it, so I can go out and lease it or rent it, those types of things. If you're in construction, make sure that that you're going to need to bond the project. So look into what that's going to cost you, how much you qualify. That'll really limit what you can bid on. Establish a line of credit. Government is notorious for slow pay. So oftentimes with government, it's that getting that first invoice paid may take 60 to 90 days. After that, and you kind of learn how the invoicing works and those types of things, then the payments become more regular, like every 30 days. But it's not uncommon that the first invoice you sent takes a while for you to get paid on it. So make sure that if you're having to, pay your employees, et cetera, pay the rent, whatever, that you have a line of credit to kind of get you through that. Be web savvy. And what I mean by that is when you're looking at different websites and stuff, they use different language for the same thing. The information, sometimes you have to poke around websites to get what it is that you need to find in order to, say, register with the system, those types of things. So make sure you're web savvy. And then accept government credit cards. The government, at all levels, local, state, federal, buyers have credit cards, and for small purchases, typically like $20,000 or less. In some cases, they can even be a lot more than that, but they can just buy something with a credit card. And so that may be a way for to make a kind of a early entry into the marketplace by making some small transactions that are paid for with credit cards versus full blown having to put together a response to an RFQ or an RFP. So with market intelligence, so I talked a little bit the very way in the beginning, you want to go out and do some market research. And so here's some websites and some tools where you can kind of do that. So as I mentioned earlier too, with the supply chain, is where do you fit? So understand that. Again, it could be that for the kind of business that you have, you're always going to sell to a prime who in turn is going to then sell to the government. If that's the case, you don't necessarily need to go out and get registered in all these websites and all that stuff. You still might want to go to maybe some of these websites I'm going to talk about and to kind of see who is getting contracts or what are upcoming opportunities, forecasts, etc. So you can reach out to primes and say, hey, I'm interested in that project. Are you guys looking at it? I'd love to talk to you about being a sub, submit some prices to you, those types of things. But again, understand, where you fit in the supply chain. Again, so number 2 there, who buys what you sell? So these websites, usaspending.gov is a great website where you can go and look by agency of which agency is buying what it is that you sell. And then it'll just spit out a whole list of, who are the companies that they awarded contracts to in the past. You can see the dollar values of them, etc. So that's a great website. One thing about all these websites too is that, we can walk you through them to help you understand how to glean information from them. Last Friday, I sat for an hour and helped somebody with USA Spending so that they could know how to navigate it and extract the information they needed so that they could identify companies that they could reach out to offer their subcontracting services to. FPDS is Federal Procurement Data System. It's a little bit more complicated than USA Spending, but it's a good website to look at contract opportunities. SAM.gov. SAM.gov is where, you know, the federal government, you register there to sell to the federal government, but also is where the federal government posts their contracting opportunities for contracts that predominantly are $25,000 and higher. And, you know, we can provide you with a guide on how to set up searches in SAM.gov and then how to save those searches and do some other things that really will make your lives a lot easier than you trying to figure them out yourself. A lot of these websites, there's great information, but they're not user friendly and not intuitive on how to use them. So lean on us and we can kind of walk you through those steps. Cal Procure is the one website we looked at. And that, again, is where they're posting their contracting information. Understand who your competitors are. Because, you know, if you know who your competitors are, you can look them up in some of these systems and you can see who they're selling to. And so then you can approach their customers, you know, and it's not uncommon that your competitor could have gone out on a job or, you know, just didn't deliver the way they were supposed to. And so their customer then is thinking about, maybe it's time to look at an alternative. So know who your customers are and know who your competitors are, and then do some research to see who they're selling to. Again, look at opportunities and look to see set-asides. One thing we tell people who are interested in getting certified is that go into, like, say, SAM.gov and then set up a search that's using the socioeconomic group that you qualify for, say like a woman-owned business, and then a NAICS code for the kind of products or services that you sell, to really see whether or not the government is setting aside contracting opportunities for your type of business or not. If you see that there isn't really a pattern where they're setting aside opportunities for your socioeconomic group that you qualify for, more than likely that's not going to happen in the future. So just know that probably it's just going to be a small business set aside. You're a small business set aside, and just go for it. But then don't go through all the trouble of getting certified if you see that the type of business that you have, you're not seeing very many set aside opportunities for. Okay, let's see. So promotion. Capability statement is something that's really important, and we can walk you through that. I do a whole presentation on just capability statements by themselves, but you need a capability statement. We can send you samples of capability statements so you can get an idea. But again, they're used heavily by federal government, large prime contractors who sell to the federal government, and then you're starting to see with state government, they're using it as well. Again, it's just a nice one page description of the products or services you sell, and some other information that government likes to see on any company. Website. If you don't have a website, I strongly encourage you to get a website for your business. And then again, what you want is have a website and your email address basically is matched with your website. It just projects a more professional image of your company. And ideally what it is say if you hand somebody a capability statement at an outreach event, which is our next bullet point, talk to them briefly for say 5 minutes. Your capability statement, that conversation then entices that individual you spoke to go to your website and learn more about your business. And that's what you want to happen. Outreach events. Anytime there's an outreach event, you want that you think that applies to your industry, you want to be there. People do business like to do business with people that they like, but that's just an opportunity for you to meet someone one-on-one and take advantage of it. A lot of these outreach events too will actually even have what are called matchmaking sessions, where you register in advance with a certain agency that's going to be there, and they give you 15 minutes to make a presentation to them. So if you see something like that, really take advantage of it. Professionalism, basically, be professional in everything that you do, dress appropriately. If you email somebody or leave a phone call to a contract officer and you don't hear back from them, that's not uncommon. In fact, it's more common that you don't hear back from them. But be professional. Don't start sending ugly emails out or anything like that, or leaving ugly messages, because that just kind of hurts you. Past performance that's what you really want to be selling when you're promoting your company, is that you've done this kind of work before, you sold this product before, and that is really important. I did a presentation yesterday, and when federal buyers have to go through these 7 evaluation factors, past performance is the most important evaluation factor that they look at. So you want to be able to promote that. And that's something that's included in this capability statement. And then again, the elevator speech, people are going to ask you, tell me about what your business does. Make sure that you have it rehearsed and it just flows off your tongue. So you're not stammering, trying to describe what it is that your company does. So what not to do, we're almost here to the end here, is a shotgun approach. So, don't be sending an email out to 50 people without really tweaking an email to the specific needs of a certain customer with the government. Again, it basically doesn't do you any good. I mean, I get them all the time. I'm sure you do too, where somebody just shoots you an email trying to sell you something. Make it focused. Mention their name in the email. Mention that that they buy the goods or services that you sell. Those types of things. Not dedicating enough resources. So again, this process of selling to the government, I say this all the time, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So you want to make sure that you have the right person, but you're willing to kind of pay them as they go out and they do their homework, they do their cold calling, do all these things, put together a proposal, submit it. They don't win it, but then they find out why, submit on another one, don't get it, but they improve through the process and continue to learn. And eventually you land something. But if you don't dedicate enough resources to it and you try it once or twice, and you don't get anything, you say, wow, this is just too hard, it's not going to work. Well, then it's probably not going to work. So make sure you have enough resources. Poor or no website. So again, websites nowadays is just really important. So you can get a pretty good looking website using some templates, literally for like $500-600, and then you can tie them to your email too for like another $20 a year or something. So have a website. This lack of preparation for outreach event. There's an outreach event, you go there, and you don't have brochures with you, or you don't have a capability statement, or even I've seen where people don't even have a business card, but they're there, so make sure you prepare. I do a presentation on attending events, but do your homework before you go to an outreach event. Know who's there, and know basically the conversation you're going to have with, say, one potential customer, and how it might be slightly different with another one, those types of things. So prepare. You have poor collateral materials. So again, take the time, put together a nice capability statement as a minimum. Again, we can send you samples, and then basically what we ask people to do, put together a draft, send it to us. We'll give you some feedback to help you dress it up, tune it up, and that way you'll have a nice capability statement. So there's no excuse for really not having good collateral materials if we're here to help you put together a good capability statement. Unprofessional behavior, I mentioned that earlier. So just don't do that. And this last one is promoting your socioeconomic status. Again, it's great that you're a woman-owned business or you're a veteran, whatever, but you want to be selling your past performance more than anything. And then you're telling somebody, oh, by the way, I happen to be a certified woman-owned business, if that's important to you. You've done your homework, it's important to them, but don't let that be the first thing that you mention. Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm a woman-owned business. I'd like to, talk to you more about the product service, Key takeaways. Oh, this kind of getting low on time. Well, watch for scams. Once you start registering for these websites, you're going to get emails from people saying, oh, don't try to register on your own or don't try to renew on your own. It's super hard. Pay us $400, $500, $5,000. Watch for scams. If you get unsolicited emails from people wanting to sell you services, remember that Small Business Development Center, Sharon and her team, it's no cost to you. There's no cost to working with us. If you get an email, you can always send it to us and we'll tell you whether it's legitimate or not. Most cases are not. They're just companies that are just trying to take your hard-earned cash. If you can, take the time to write a marketing plan that's specific to government, which might be different than a marketing plan you might have for just the private sector. But if you can, put together a marketing plan that's specific to government. And then patience and time. You heard me say that before. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So again, work it. You're going to get educated and learn more and more in the process. Micro purchases, again, those are those credit card purchases that I mentioned. That can be a great entree into you in the government marketplace by just starting out with some small purchases. One thing I'll tell you about micro purchases too is that they're not advertised. You won't find those on government websites like that where they post in their contracting opportunities. Basically, purchasing person probably going to do a internet search, find your website, selling a product or service that they want to buy. They're going to maybe reach out to you either by the phone or an email, get a quote from you. Once they get 3 quotes, they're going to make a buying decision and pay for it with a credit card. And again, don't forget about, smaller government, the town, city, county. Government is also like school districts, water districts. Those may be the easier opportunities for you to land. And then resources, again, internal and external. So, who are the right people that internally already work for you and externally working with us or with like Sharon's group of the SBDC. Oh, the same one all over again. Upcoming webinar topics. We're going to take a deep dive in 2 weeks on how to market a government agency. So that's actually all these are good, I guess, but talking really about how to do your market research on, marketing to the government. And then on July 12th, this is like the presentation I mentioned earlier. It's a whole hour on capability statements in government contracting and what they are, how to use them properly, and then talk about the different sections that are part of a capability statement. I'll take some questions now, and then one of the things that I'll tell you too, I forgot to tell you probably in the very beginning is you'll receive a copy of this slide of this presentation, as well as a link to the recording of the presentation, should you want to sit through it again. So let me jump into, you can put in the questions either through the Q&A or chat. So let me just ask one here. If I contact one of these companies, who or which office would I ask for? So I'm thinking, Fernando's question has to do with, I had that slide up and it showed all these large prime contractors. If you email us, typically, if you go to all those companies, have websites. And if you poke that, when I talked about being web savvy, if you poke around their website, somewhere you'll find where they have like a small business liaison. They have different titles, but you'll get to a page where there's someone you can contact about registering with their company. Oftentimes they're going to ask you, if it's construction, to submit or complete like a small business. No, not a small business, a subcontractor qualification form or something like that. They just kind of want to know what kind of work you've done in the past. They're going to ask about body capacity insurance, maybe your safety record, those kinds of things. But if they ask you to do that, you want to do that. But that's it. But we actually put together a spreadsheet of, it's probably the 20 largest construction companies that do work in the state of California. And then on that spreadsheet, we've got links to where you can go directly to where you need to contact or register with them. Can you add 3.5 cent to credit card charges? Sure. You can do that. So somebody asked, can you please tell again how we can get a copy of the recording or slides of this? So when you registered, provided your email address to us, we will email you the presentation and the recording. Here's our contact information. So again, if you have more questions, or if you're not already registered with us as a client, go here to MontereyBayApex.org, register with us as a client. We'd love to hear from you and then learn more about your business and how we can assist you in landing some government contracts, etc. And that's one of the things, in order for us to really sit down and help you out, per our contract with the Department of Defense, we need you to register with us. With that, we've kind of gone a little long. Apologize for that. I don't see any other. Well, we might have one other question. Okay. Somebody wants to know, where would I check to see capabilities in templates? Again, you need to, Brian asked, where would I check to see capability statement templates? Again, that's something, if you register with us, and I know you are, I can just kind of send them to you, and then you can start putting together a set of draft, and then we can give you feedback on them. Oops. Somebody asked a question. One of the consultants sits in navigating this in more detail. Don't know what this means. So I know Sharon looks like she's typing something, but probably can.
Victor, I put the answer in the Q&A, and it's in the answered tab.
Okay. Oops. All right, well, I'm not seeing any other questions. Oh, I'm seeing. All right, well, thank you all very, very much. And then I'm hoping everybody joins us in 2 weeks for how to market to government agencies. It's again, pretty insightful and a little bit different way to kind of think about marketing to the government. Most of it, people think of it's just marketing is just sales, but there's a lot more to it than that. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.